Hello and welcome everybody, ladies and gentlemen, to what is round 2 of the IRL F3 League. Tonight we've travelled all the way to the Asmouni circuit in Abu Dhabi for the round 2 of the season 10 Grand Prix. Tonight the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix has been on the calendar since 2009. The day tonight race divides opinion of many F1 fans across the globe due to the racing it traditionally provides. We'll see what we can get tonight. Hopefully we'll be aiming for a fantastic race for everyone. It's an incredible circuit with an amazing outlook. The facilities of modern day F1 is absolutely brilliant. Tonight, although with me to share all over the action, I have Charlie with me. Charlie, is this a great Formula 1 circuit, or is it one of those new circuits that's just nowhere near adaptable enough for modern day F1 cars?
I think it struggles. This circuit struggles with the modern Formula One cars because they can't follow each other so closely behind one another. So obviously Sector 3 really doesn't help these cars to provide us with great racing. But I think there is opportunities to overtake here tonight, down in the middle sector on the two long straights. So yeah, it can be entertaining as long as you've got DRS to help you along the way.
Absolutely, let's hope so. So obviously we're just about to start off on qualifying tonight. 18 drivers on the grid. It lasts in round 1, the start of season 10 in Japan Suzuka. We had a fantastic race all the way from start to finish. It was a very, very nice fight between the top 6, all very close. Perhaps the two drives that maybe stood out was the two Alfa Romeo cars, Charlie. Is Luke Bailey, what's he got to do to try and catch up with Mr. P? Because he was quite dominant in Japan.
I don't think he was that far off, Luke Bailey, from his teammate Mr. P, but I think he's just got to not let him get out of his sight tonight and pin a move on him down one of the straights, because although Mr. P was 2 positions ahead of him, I think they followed each other pretty closely all race, so I'm expecting them to have similar pace tonight and be challenging each other for the win.
Let's definitely hope so. It should be on for a thrilling Grand Prix. Of course, it is a day to night race, so it does look all so beautiful on the stream when we all get underway. And as you see, Luke Bailey, I believe is the first car out on the circuit, so he's putting down a bit of a bank marker there. He's got his teammate right behind him as well, so both Alfa Romeos looking to get underway quickly.
It's interesting to see if they're going to go for the slipstream here. Obviously you can, if you time it right, do it on both the straights, and you could gain around about half a second, so let's see if they go for that.
Absolutely, team games of course are absolutely something we can see quite often in pretty much any circuit where there is a long straight. To have 2 straights would be interesting to see how they do work it. Do they take it in turns, or is it going to be one driver going for pole, maybe another driver going for strategy? We'll have to see. A driver who I was hoping, and someone who got very close, the biggest threat to both Alfa Romeo drivers in Japan was Bagger Bones. Sadly, we believe he has had to pull out of the league, which is a great shame because obviously the Racing Point teamed up with TG Jeffrey there at the bottom of your screen on the left hand side. It was looking like probably the biggest threat to Alfa Romeo. Charlie, do you not think?
Yeah. Bagger Bones obviously was their biggest threat last week and looked as if he could challenge for the win, but unfortunately we've lost him. But I think Jeffrey's here tonight, so hopefully he can take up the role of Bagger Bones and put these Alphas to the sword.
Let's hope so. As you see Luke Bailey starting the first final lap of tonight's evening. I'm just noticing already, as we were talking about earlier, Charlie, possible to the 2 Alfa Romeos. Mr. P is only probably about a second behind his teammate starting on the first flying laps.
Yeah, I'm going to ride on board with Mr. P and see if he's close enough down the straight to get the benefit of the slipstream. I'm not sure he is, but if Luke Bailey just slows down on this hairpin a little bit, then he might be able to. But Mr. P has gone very wide through the hairpin, but he's got a good exit, so maybe he is just getting a bit of a slipstream down this straight.
Of course, it is a risk. Of course, coming up to the 3rd sector, you absolutely do not want a car ahead of you. It's incredibly difficult, very twisty last sector. You don't want any turbulent air. Tyre temperatures are something we haven't picked up on yet. That is so critical around this circuit. Even in qualifying, but also the race is a big challenge to try and manage all of your tyres. But in qualifying, if you do take too much life out of them in the early part of that last sector, you can really feel the effects of the last couple of corners. We have a yellow flag in the 1st sector. I think we've got a Rebel facing the wrong way. I think it might be Malc there, F1.
Yeah.
I think he might have even damaged his front wing, so I think either he's done that coming out the pit lane, possibly, or he might have just perhaps taken a bit too much curb, lost it and hit the barrier, so obviously not a great start for him.
Yeah, Malc was around there. He has damaged his front wing. I'm not quite sure what happened, but yeah, it's not the best start, so he'll have to pit, and that'll be that lap gone.
So you know, riding aboard with TG Jeffrey. See, Luke Bailey sets a new fastest lap and the provisional pole lap. We'll see what his teammate can do. Should be coming around. I think Mr. P actually dives into the pit lane.
Mr. P has gone into the pits. I think he cut the corner on the entry to the second to last corner. So I say he dived into the pits. He almost stuck it in the wall on the entry into the pits. So it wasn't the best entry, but yeah, he got there in the end.
We've got a yellow flag in sector 3. I've got popped up anyway. I've got TG Jeffrey who's just set, I believe is coming up on the right hand side. There's a purple middle medium compounded tyres. There's got a few drivers registering a lap time now, all in the 37s really. So Luke Bailey a 35.4 is a very competitive lap time so far. We'll see what tyres everyone else is going on. As Jeffrey now coming up just to the last few corners, as we see Luke Bailey on the soft tyres, so we can expect him to be a little bit quicker than Dutch and F1 Richard, who are both on the mediums. See what F1 Jeffrey TG Jeffrey can do on the medium set tyres. So he'll be looking to get into the 36s, and he does quite comfortably a 36.6, so just over a second off Luke Bailey, and I think that's a very good benchmark to have on the slower compound of tyres.
Yeah, I think that will serve him well if he doesn't manage to get a time in on the soft compound. I think starting on the medium with a 36.6, he shouldn't be too far down the order. So yeah, good time from Jeffrey.
Just riding aboard there synchronously in the Renault. I think it might just have invalidated his lap time in turn 1. Another thing to talk about, Charlie, is invalidations around this circuit is so easy to do. There's a lot of places. Turn 1 in particular is a very unforgiving corner in terms of track limits.
Yeah, you've got to be really careful for sector 3. It's really hard because you want to push so hard and gain every tenth of a second you can, but the curbs are really unforgiving, and you can either find yourself invalidating or potentially spinning if you hit the curb too hard.
Absolutely. So in terms of strategy, we seems to be one of the most, probably maybe the most open track on the calendar in terms of what you can do. It seems like any mix of compound tyre, any sort of mix of number of stops, you can sort of just about make it work around the Abu Dhabi circuit, providing you are able to keep those tyre temperatures down.
Yeah.
We're seeing, I'm just looking on the left hand side of the screen now, we've got quite a few people on the mediums and even the hards. Only a few people have set a couple of laps on the soft tyres, even though they are the better qualifying tyres. Do you think people are getting their eye in on bankers, or is it the softs are just wear too quickly?
Yeah, no, I think maybe people are getting their eye on bankers. Maybe they've not had that much practice and they just want to get a couple of laps in before they go for a quali lap. But yeah, the soft or the medium's definitely the tyre to qualify on. The hard, you can touch it in the race if you want to go on a one stop, because I think soft to hard is probably a safer bet than soft to medium. But yeah, I'd expect most people to qualify on the softs around here. It's not too bad. You can get 6 or 7 laps out of it, but then yeah, you're looking to pit for the mediums because it is a 2-stop if you start on the softs, I think.
To see Spud there moving up to P8 with a 37.7, so he seems to be sort of in touch with all the other medium runners. Although see Steel B, who had a very nice, he showed very good pace in Japan. Both Mercedes had very good pace. I think they both would have felt they could have got a little bit more, but he jumped up into P3. He is the fastest of the medium runners, a 36.5. You see Craig now jumping up all the way up to second. He's at a 35.9 as Wojtek now takes P3 with a 36.5 and a soft. It's a good lap time, but of course he is only just about quicker than the medium tyres, so I'm sure he'll be looking to try and go a little bit faster. Luke Bailey seems to be, with just 10 minutes left on the clock, Luke Bailey seems to be in the pole position seat for now.
Yeah, I was on board with Craig when he completed his lap. It was a pretty decent lap. He was nice and tidy, but I expect there's a few attempts there to find for him. I'm expecting him to challenge for the podium tonight after a good performance last week. We know he picked up some penalties that dropped him down a bit, but he had good pace, so I'm expecting Craig to be up there tonight.
Absolutely, yeah, some very good pace in the pre-season race as well, of course, around Bahrain, so it would have been interesting to see how they've done around there before without disconnection problems. Let's hope we don't have any of those tonight, as we see Captain Stiff Gareth, of course, in the Williams to see what he can do. He didn't have the greatest start to the season, as we really had a struggle, particularly in qualifying. Sector 1 was a real nuisance to him. a little bit of an easier sector 1 this time round, so he might have a bit of an easier qualifying session. He's going for the medium set tyres as well. You see on the left hand side now, quite a few drivers are now coming out on the soft tyres. In fact, everyone in the top 10 right now is either in the pit lane or on a set of soft tyres, so I think everyone's looking to try and get that crucial track position around here.
Yeah, it looks like that. Unfortunately, at some point we lost Tinnis as well, so he is retired from the session. I don't know whether he crashed or not, but it looks like he'll be starting from the back if everyone else can get a time in. But yeah, it looks like everyone's going aggressive in the top 10 and going for the soft, so it'd be interesting to see who gets pole on raw pace.
Speaking of going aggressive, I think Gareth just going a little bit just too wide. They're coming to the third to last corner, just invalidating his lap time. It's so easy to do. We've all done it. There's absolutely no chance. We're expecting quite a lot of penalties tonight. See Luke Bailey now on his second flying lap. I think it's a 10th down on his time through the first sector. We'll see what he can do now. He hasn't got his teammate ahead of him, so there's definitely no tow. He's got a clear track ahead of him. There's quite a few cars in the pit lane right now. But we'll see what his split time is. He's still another 10th down in the second sector. He's going to have to find a very nice last sector if he wants to find even more time. Of course, he has got a half a second cushion to P2 at the moment, Craig, but he knows that his teammate Mr. P is of course a very quick driver, and of course he set pole position and the race win in Japan, so he knows he's going to have to find every tenth of a second he can to try and fend off his number one target, which of course is his teammate right now.
Yeah, interestingly, last night Mr. P in the realistic performance didn't have a very good race, so maybe that win last week, has gone to his head a little bit, and he's putting a bit too much pressure on himself.
But maybe a bit of complacency as well, as Mr. P actually comes out for an out lap. So of course he's still yet to have a lap time put on the board with just over 7 minutes to go. Now of course we know he's very quick. He knows he's going to be aiming for the front row at least, but it's not ideal not to have a banker put in at this point. Still got plenty of drivers yet to put in a banker, to be fair. The top 13 all have set times. Brennon's of course on the hard tyres as well. He's set a 38.4. He's a driver who seems to quite like the alternative strategy. Could be quite expecting on him going on for the one stop potentially. As we see now, Craig on for an outlap as he's now currently sat in P3. After Dutch Lowry's popped up with a 35.6, so he's only 0.2 of a second off Luke Bailey into P1. As Wojtek as well, another very fast driver who we're very used to seeing at the front of the field. He's down to P4, but he's still got to find a little bit of time to catch up to the front three.
Yes, I'm expecting Wojtek to be up there as well. He had pretty good pace last week, so yeah, there's probably a bit of time to find there for him.
Just see
his
Jeffrey.
Current lap is on the mediums, isn't it? No, it's on the soft. So yeah, I'm expecting a lot of time to be found by Wojtek on this next fine lap.
And we were talking about a possible biggest threat to the Alfa Romeos was the Racing Point at Bag of Bones. We haven't got him tonight, but we've certainly got his teammate TG Jeffrey, who is the biggest threat to the Alfa Romeos in Bahrain. He's just gone P1 with 6 minutes left on the clock. He's gone faster than Luke Bailey by just 12 thousandths of a second, so a very good effort from him. He will have time as well to get in another lap if he so chooses. So the pressure for the Alfa Romeo drivers now lines with Mr. P, still yet to set a lap time. We'll have a look, see what he can do. He's just said his first sector now. Of course, he has yet to get a lap on the board. Gareth as well is into the pit, as to his Malc. He's just on an outlap on the medium tyres. Mike, in the second Mercedes is yet to set a lap time. F1 Richard is just jumped up to P3, so 35.6. So the lap times are definitely tumbling, and it seems like the Alfa Romeos have really got some competition on their hands. We've just seen now Mr. P coming up to the second sector. It looks like he's going to get a nice little tow here from his teammate Luke Bailey, who pulls all the way to the right hand side, and it's purple in the middle sector for Mr. P. There's no hint of a reason why that could possibly be, but there's all gone there. He's just cut. There's just a second turn of that treble chicane through there, and he's just invalidated his lap time, which means that tow is effectively rendered useless. And with 5 minutes to go, Mr. P is currently sat in P17.
Yeah, it's not looking good for him. He's going to really have to pull it together and nail a final run. So all the pressure now is on Mr. P to get that final run perfected.
Absolutely. See now Craig now, I think he might be on a new personal best here, as we see the Renault drive come all the way down a second stroke. I have to see what his second split time is at. And he's gone purple, and he's on a new personal best by 4/10 of a second. So, if a good third sector here, Craig could be looking at a potential provisional pole. Just 4 minutes left on the clock. The racing point of TG Jeffrey is in the pit lane at the moment. Luke Bailey, I think, is just setting what would probably be his last flying lap of his qualifying session. We see Craig now going through the last under the hotel, through to the third to last corner, turning up now into turn 20, changing down to fourth gear, flicking it all the way to the right, up to fifth, leaves it in fifth, revs it all the way down into third gear. It's trying to get the best exit he can to the line, and a 35-1, 3/10 of a second.
Very nice lap by Craig there. He's absolutely blown everyone away with that. So the pressure is really on everyone else now to take it to Craig and try and beat that. Wow.
That is one hell of a bench time. It's a lot of time to find 3/10 a second, and that was without a slipstream. He certainly doesn't feel like he needs a tow. Let's see what Luke Bailey does. He's 2/10 up, and he's set a purple middle sector, but he's still going to have to find a little bit more time if he's going to want to try and beat Craig to P1 tonight. The Alfa Romeo driver's teammate is still in the pit lane. Mr. P should just about have time to put on a new set of boots and set the lap time. Yet Mike is also in the pit lane, so too is Gareth. I think Malc is also back on track. They are your 4 drivers yet to set a lap time. As we see now, Luke Bailey flicking it around turn 20, the second to last corner. So now we're revving it all the way to the last corner, down to third gear. He wants to get the best exit possible. At a 35-0, so immediately responded to the pressure.
Yeah, Craig toppled immediately, which is a shame for him, but again, a great lap. The times are just coming down and down at the moment, so let's see if his teammate can challenge him for that, and Jeffrey.
Yeah, Wojtek, of course, also moving up himself up into P3. We're expecting him to be near the front. He always seems to be, and he's moving himself really nicely into a good position. He's got set himself a 35.4, 4/10 off pole position, but right now he'll be on the second row of the grid, which is a very nice starting point. You see Dutch Lowy setting a purple first sector, so he's going well. He's currently sat in P6, only 6/10 off pole position right now. There's a lot of guys who seem to be intrigued at getting this pole position. Just over 2 minutes left on the clock. Mr. P's just about to set his out lap as well, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just on board with F1 Richard. He's just come out on an out lap, and he's sitting in 5th place on a 1 minute 35.6, and he could have some time in the bag. We don't know yet, so let's see if he can improve on his lap, because he could challenge the podium sitters at the moment.
So you're seeing quite a few cars still left in the pit lane, only 1 minute 48 on the clock. I think we might see possibly a mad dash out. In fact, they all seem to be set now to out lap, so everyone seems to be coming out. As you just see Dutch Lower just losing the rear there through one of the last turns in the last sector, possibly even overheating his tyres. We'll see what he does now to come to the second to last corner. He might even back out of it. We'll see what he does. He does come into the pit lane, so he's clearly had enough. 35.6 is the best he feels he can do. F1 Richard is on an out lap. See what Luke Bailey can do. He's invalidated, so he might just been coming in for an in lap, I believe.
Yeah.
So either way, he's not going to go quicker. TG Jeffrey, perhaps, maybe the only man who can potentially stop him. Mr. P as well. If he's going to have to pull an absolute rabbit out of a hat, really, to find himself on the front row, surely, without 1 minute left on the clock. He still hasn't set a banker time. It's going to be all or nothing on this last lap.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders now. This is really hard to do a lap under this amount of pressure when you know you've got to nail it. It's so easy to invalidate round here or make a mistake. So the pressure is really on Mr. P, and he's got to find a good time out of nowhere.
He certainly has, and someone who's gone off trying to find a little bit more time is F1 Richard. He's just set a new personal best first sector by about 1/10 and a half, and that's a lot of time to find in the first sector. Of course, it's a very tight turn 1, it's very easy to invalidate, as we were saying, but turns 2 and 3 are very, very fast and very easy on these low fuel lows. So he's had a very nice first sector there. See what he can do under the harsh braking zones here after the very, very long straight. Want to get an absolute maximum exit to give him all the straight line speed he can coming into the second end of the second sector. His head now into turns 11, 12 and 13. See what his split time is. Might still be on a personal best, so he's lost a little bit of time, so he's going to find it hard to find, perhaps, to try and push himself on the first or second row. see what TG Jeffrey's doing. And of course, he's not really improving in that first sector, but there's still a lot of time left to find. You see the top 3 all cannot go quicker. They've all run out of time. So it's really all down to TG Jeffrey and Mr. P perhaps to challenge for that P1.
Yeah, Mr. P just coming into the final sector now. It looks like a pretty tidy lap so far. Looking pretty aggressive as well. So let's see if he can keep the tyres in check for the last sector and nail a lap. He hasn't invalidated yet, I believe.
Absolutely crucial he doesn't with just well, we are now into the added time of the session. 18 minutes is up. He's in P17. He cannot afford to invalidate on these last corners. He's making sure he leaves absolutely 4 wheels all on the circuit. He's got to try and get a nice exit to the line. Where does he go? It goes P1 at 34.9. So he's pipped his team out by half a tenth of a second. He only needs 1 lap. The top 10 are all on soft tyres at the moment. As we see, I think it might have been Steel B moves up into P7 there. 35.5. Yeah. We're talking about a pressure lap, probably the most pressure you can go, but from P17 he's gone to P1 as Jeffrey goes just 11 thousandths of a second slower, who also pips Luke Bailey. I don't think we was expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that at all, but it's good that Jeffrey's got himself up in between the 2 cars. So yeah, Jeffrey, like we said, taking Bag and Bones' role onto his shoulders and putting the 2 alphas to the test tonight.
Absolutely, as Gareth and Malc and Mike all not setting a lap time. They might have invalidated. I think Mike was on a lap. I think he just thought better of it. I think he will be starting P15 anyway. Captain Stiff will be starting from possibly P17 in the Williams, and we're expecting to see Malc at the back. But an incredible 2 flying laps there right at the end. It's been so close, particularly to those top 3. Craig set perhaps the initial starting lap with a 35.1, but then to break into the 34 so quickly from both Mr. P and TG Jeffrey, that's really 2 incredible laps when you're under pressure, when the time has already gone below 0, to then come back and then both do such incredible laps so close together. That's really top driving from both of them. Congratulations to the pair. Mr. P is your pole sitter, 2 pole positions out to for him. Jeffrey is in P2. Second time an Racing Point is on the second in position 2 for the start of Grand Prix. Luke Bailey's P3, Craig is P4. It'd be interesting what he can do with his good race pace. F1 Richard, fantastic qualifying from him. Wojtek is P6, Still B is 7th, Dutch Lowy is P8, Brennon's in P9, Nitro Gas, Synchronuzi, Dragio, O Stevens, Spud, Mike, Tinnis, Captain Stiff, and of course Malc is heading up the rear. Little breather there, Charlies, before we get underway. What are your thoughts on, well, say first of all, Mr. P, I suppose. He was the star of qualifying in Japan. He's once again the star here in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, he really pulled that out of the bag, didn't he? The pressure was on there and he had to nail that lap, and he did. So fair play to him. You know, he's stuck it on pole, so now he's got to make it count where it matters in the race.
Because there's such a short run into turn 1, it's quite unlikely perhaps it'd have to be an awful start for him to realistically lose his lead. Do you think it is possible though, coming onto the main straights as we sort of looking into turns 8, 9 and 10, do you think he's going to have to go defensive because it is such a long straight and he will be punching a hole through the air, everyone else behind him will be getting a slipstream down there?
Yeah, if anyone behind him, like Luke Bailey and Jeffrey, are pretty aggressive from the start, he could find himself defending down into the chicane at the end of the first long straight. So he's got to be careful, keep his wits about him, and just try and bolt at the start and get a good exit off that hairpin, so he's not under too much pressure.
Absolutely. Just talking about strategies, we said we can pretty much do anything around here. Really, can sort of mix and match. It's very hard to predict. Soft tyres are very quick, and they are. But they are also very temperamental. We're talking about the tyre temperatures. What sort of laps do you think? Because we've got, I think, all of the top 10, I think, all on the soft tyres, all going for track position. Are these guys going to be in very quickly, do you think? Or is it literally just going to be go as slow as you like just to keep them in check and go as long as you can, looking for the one stop perhaps?
I'm expecting most of them to be on a 2-stop, as I think the 2-stop is the optimal strategy here tonight. But yeah, if they're not, then they're going to be going to around lap 10 if they want to do a 1-stop. But yeah, a 2-stop, I'm expecting to see cars in around lap 6 or 7, possibly even earlier if they want to try the undercut, because it is very powerful here.
Absolutely. Keeping your tyres under control in terms of temperature and looking after your tyres is going to be absolutely crucial. For the second time, we do have an Alfa Romeo on pole, and we do have a Racing Point alongside. It's going to be a fantastic battle. Once again, it's going to be Alfa Romeo sandwich for a Racing Point. We'll see what Jeffrey can do. Mr. P heads them all out for the formation lap, though. Is there so much, if you're on the soft tyres, is there much of a need for a formation lap with a tyre temp so easy to get so high so quickly?
You do need to still warm them up, obviously, because you don't want to be starting on cold tyres, but you don't want to overheat them because it's such a killer. If they're already overheated when you start, then you're going to be losing time hand over fist for every corner. But yeah, you do need to get them in the right window. So yeah, the formation lap again is still key.
So there's confirmation left-hand side of the screen though. It wasn't in fact the top 10 all starting on soft tyres. Brennon's in fact going P9 with a medium set of tyres. So a very impressive qualifying for him to get ahead of Nitro Gas and Synchronousially in the Renault on the soft, despite being on the slower set of tyres. The McLaren driver quite often likes to go for the alternative strategy. It will be interesting to see if he goes aggressive on a two-stop with the mediums and go maybe on the soft tyres for the end, or does he go for that one stop and look, see where he can go on the hard tyres, because they are very durable. They are much easier to manage tyre temperatures around this circuit, but they are quite a bit slower, so it depends on how aggressive he's feeling. And in terms of how we can dictate the traffic, which of course is going to be a crucial thing around here today, Charlie, is this going to be a DRS train, or are we going to see some proper wheel-to-wheel racing, do you reckon?
I think we could see a lot of overtaking here today because the straights are so long and so wide. You don't really get caught in a DRS train. There's a potential for a lot of switching of positions, sort of what I'd say unnecessarily, because the straights are so long, you end up passing the guy you're behind on DRS on the first straight, and then he could just get you back quite easily on the second straight. So we could see a lot of switches for position which aren't real switches, if you understand what I'm saying. They're just people trading position because the DRS is so strong. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot of overtaking and hopefully some proper wheel-to-wheel racing down into the braking zones.
Absolutely, let's hope so. It should be very interesting between 11, 12 and 13, particularly on these opening laps. We'll expect to see possibly a little bit of carnage, but potentially a little bit of contact. We'll have to say safety cars, of course, are always a possibility these days. And we're now just about forming up onto the grid. A nice slow warm-up lap from Mr. P. He heads the field. We're just waiting for the last cars. Interesting, Malc, who's now P18. He's going very aggressive despite knowing how hard this track is on tyres and temperatures. He's going aggressive. He's starting on the soft tyres. Got quite a few guys ahead of him on the medium, so he's going to have to make up time and positions very, very quickly, and a good start is absolutely crucial for him. But now we are waiting on 5 red lights. There's 3, there's 4, and there's 5. And we're all waiting to go underway. A long pause, but there we are. What can the Alfa Romeo driver do? So we're going to turn 1. And it's a very good start from the racing, but Mr. P comes over aggressively, but it's TT Jeffrey going to the inside line, but Mr. P holds it around the outside. They're still side by side as we come down to turns 2 and 3, and the Racing Point looks to tense just about taking the lead. He sweeps around the outside of turn 3. Mr. P to not get a good launch at all, but he's managed to at least defend from his teammate. Craig holds into P4. We've got a little bit of a change there. I think F1 Richards and is getting in a fight with the Mercedes at the back there. We'll see how the two Alfa Romeos can respond, but it's the Racing Point who's taking the lead. A fantastic start. It's such a short run into turn 1. We didn't think we were expecting to see too many overtakes around there, but that was an absolute monster of a start. We see now, I think it might be Dutch Larry trying to lose the slipstream. We'll see a lot of that tonight. It's now coming down into turns 8 and 9. It's going to be absolutely crucial that to get a good exit, because I don't want to be coming under pressure into turns 10 and 11 and 12. As we see, I think Mr. P is just too far behind to try and get away from the Racing Point, but it seems like, Charlie, they've all got away very cleanly.
Yeah, it seems to be that everyone's got away fairly cleanly. I'm very impressed with Jeffrey's start. That was super aggressive and just what he needed. Lay down the marker for Mr. P early in the race and really put the pressure on him to come back at him. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how this goes from here.
Absolutely. Now, of course, he's got the trouble of trying to keep not just 1 but 2 Alfa Romeos behind him. Only 4 attempts separated first and second, and then another 4 attempts between second and third. Craig, of course, keeping himself right in a bunch. We see a lot of changes. We see who's made up the most made up the most positions you see on this opening lap. Malc, of course, we said he needs to be aggressive. He's starting on those soft tyres despite starting last, and he's already up to P15, so he's got past a few guys already. Dutch Laurie's had a bad opening lap. He's now down all the way down to P15. Mr. P, of course, unfortunately lost the lead into turn 1. It was a very aggressive defence from him, but TG Jeffrey was certainly not phased, and he's had a fantastic opening to this second lap. He's almost broken the DRS zone already, so perhaps he's just being under a bit of pressure. He pulled it out of the bag in qualifying. He's going to have to perhaps pull another rabbit out of the bag to try and, because he's now under pressure from his teammate, because the Racing Point seems to be driving away from him at the moment as Luke Bailey's getting very close down the straight. It'd be interesting to see if they do fight or they just decide to work together for now. We'll see a couple of guys who see Spud and Tinnis in the pit lane. I'm not sure if you caught anything of that, Charlie, and might just had some damage around there.
Yeah, I did see them drop places on the first lap, so I'm assuming that they got damaged, but no, I didn't see what exactly happened between the pair.
You see now two Alfa Romeos so close, but it seems like Mr. P and Luke Bailey seem to have just about happy to stay P2 and P3. They've got to stay with the Racing Point. It's just now broken the DRS zone of 1 second, which is absolutely crucial. Of course, it is the third lap where the DRS zone is now activated. Craig's dropped 1.1 seconds behind Luke Bailey, so might already be a breakaway top 3. Craig does usually do very nicely in terms of race pace, so we'll see what he can do in terms of trying to catch up with these guys, but at the moment he's under pressure from the Hasse Wojtek. Brennons is making very nice progress on the mediums as well. He's in P8, he knows his race is yet to come. His tyres will stay much more calmly than all these soft runners who we expect to be pitting probably fairly soon, maybe around lap 4, 5, 6. As Brennons can probably go twice the length of that. And of course the strategy of a one-stop is open to him. These guys on the soft are going to have to absolutely hammer it and look after the tyres the absolute maximum they can to get anywhere near a one-stop. As Luke Bailey again putting his teammate under a hell of a lot of pressure, and TT Jeffrey is absolutely driving away. He's got a 1.5 second gap. Mr. P is under immense pressure, so you've got, I think, got a spin there from a Haas in the sector 3. Tinnis, who's already at the back on the hard tyres, perhaps struggling maybe even to get some temperature in them. There's Mr. P moves all the way over to the left hand side. He's letting his teammate through. He knows he perhaps hasn't got the pace on his opening laps. And Luke Bailey moves up into P2. He's got to try and close down that Racing Point quickly.
Yeah, they can't let him get away with DRS being so key around here. They need to get into it to be able to conserve their tyres and energy, so they're not overstressing the car. Otherwise they'll be forever chasing him and pushing a bit too hard.
Oh, absolutely. Mr. P goes absolutely really wide around turns 11 and 12. He comes back on the circuit ahead of Craig, but he's got himself a 3-second time penalty straight away there. And that is absolutely crucial when you're fighting for the race win, when you're fighting for podiums. That is a slam dunk 3-second penalty, and only on lap 3. We know penalties are so easy to get around here, Charlie, but I mean that's a disastrous start, isn't it, for the pole sitter?
That is a horrendous start. He's somewhat capitulating on these opening laps, but let's see if he can pull himself together and get back into the fight for the lead.
Got a yellow flag in sector 3.
Synchronously.
It's the second runner synchronously.
Oh, it's a big crash. It's a big
safety
crash.
Car.
Yeah, there was a few different cars involved in that. I'm not quite sure who, but saw some wing damage from multiple cars. I think Malc might have been caught up in that, unfortunately.
Be interesting if Malc does indeed come into the pit lane. I think he might be right. I think he might have picked up damage. Of course, it is probably, if you're on the soft tyre, is this not the perfect chance to jump onto the new set of tyres?
Yeah, it could have been. I think a couple of people just missed it as they came past the pits. They just missed the safety car coming out. So Mr. P's just picked up another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, which is somewhat careless under the safety car. I think Nitrogas was also caught up in Synchronously's incident, so he is replacing his front wing in the pits now.
There was double stopping the Red Bull boys. Not only are they double stopping, they're double changing the front wings, I believe. So Malc, who started absolute stone dead last in P18, he went aggressive on the soft tyres. I think he'd be thanking his lucky stars that he did, because he's now, as he can overtake that safety car, it's a green light, which he does so. He's got to catch up to the pack first. But he's now sat in P14. He's already made his stop, the first guy to make his stop. And if he can look after his tyres and keep himself in the hunt when all these other cars come in, he's potentially going to look at quite a few positions here if he's able to get his foot down. Of course, you are meant to stick to a delta. It'd be interesting. We could potentially see Brennons leading this race when the safety car comes in, because I'm expecting the front 7 to all potentially come in.
Yeah. I'd expect a lot of them to get their pit stops out of the way now. I mean, I know it's a couple of laps early, but the time you gain by pitting under a safety car is very valuable. So.
And if you are for Romeo, and to see Mr. P, he seems to be dropping off quite rapidly to his teammate, about 3.5 seconds. I think he might be holding everyone up here as his teammate comes into the pit. He knows he's not stupid, he's not playing games. He's trying to hold up everyone. It's interesting, Craig does go through, so too does Wojtek, so they're clearly feeling they've got a lot more time left in their soft tyres, and interestingly, so does TG Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was a bit sneaky by Mr. P to back everyone off it so much, but obviously it worked for them boys. Yeah, interesting Craig stayed out, because I think he might lose out a lot of time from this, because obviously everyone else will be right behind him when we get underway again from the safety car period. So unless he comes in next lap, I don't really see what he's going to get out of this.
Yeah, of course, a bold call from our race leader TG Jeffrey. Is having an absolutely flying first stint. He was pipped to pole position by just 12 thousandths of a second, but even so, he took the lead into turn 1 and never really looked back. He managed to pull nearly, I think it was about a 1.6 second gap to the Alfa Romeo, so he seemed to have much more confidence on those soft tyres under race pace. But he's clearly going the aggressive game now. Of course, the one thing he has got is these Alfa Romeos have now got to fight their way through traffic. He's got to try and build up as much of a gap as he can on those soft tyres while they're fighting through the traffic. Perhaps he's even looking at a one stop. I suppose with the added laps of a safety car, if you're able to keep your tyres, the soft tyres in check, could he go onto the hard tyres to the end?
That is the only other thing I've just thought of that these guys could do. Now that the safety car is out, they're getting a couple of laps in tyre life really, and possibly go for a one stop while Mr. P and Luke Bailey try and fight their way back through the traffic. So that is the only thing I can see these guys doing to stay ahead of those Alfa Romeos now.
Of course, our race leading cars at the moment are a very different order to how we qualified. Right now, our top 10 is TG Jeffrey, Craig, Wojtek, Brennon's in the medium tyres. He leads the medium tyre field, if you like. Dragio is now in P5. O'Stevens moved up to P6. Mike is in P7. Captain Stiff started around P16, I believe. He's now up into P8. He'll be looking to look after his tyres and go as long into this race as he can. Luke Bailey, the first drivers, or those who have stopped, he's on a new set of mediums in P9. See if anyone regrets and comes into the pit stop. I think they're all staying out, so I think they're all sticking to the guns. They don't want to lose track position. But Luke Bailey's in P9, has got a couple of cars behind him. Of course, in fact, Mr. P, after having to stack behind his teammate, actually really lost track position to the Mercedes of Still B and F1 Richard, so he's effectively in about 3rd or 4th place right now. And that's, of course...
It's not worked out for Mr. P, has it? With those penalties and dropping a couple of positions now, he's going to find himself quite a way behind his teammate once they start working his way through the traffic.
And as a champion yourself, how does it go? You've been on pole position before. How does it go from when you've been under immense pressure in qualifying? You've P17, you've pulled an absolute rabbit out of the hat. You've gone P1, you've taken pole position for the 2nd race in a row. But yet the race so far couldn't have been any different, or couldn't have been more different from the qualifying result. He's been really struggling so far.
Yeah, it can be really frustrating, but you've just got to. It's really hard, but can't let it get the better of you. You've just got to keep your head down and not do any stupid moves, which can be really easy to do when you're frustrated and chasing. So, yeah, he's just got to stay focused and try and cut his way through the field and not get caught up in too many unneeded squabbles.
Absolutely, of course, he's got to, of course, make sure that he doesn't pick up any more penalties as well. We believe he's already got 6 seconds worth, which of course is an absolute age in terms of F1. And see, safety car is in this lap, and TG Jeffrey just backing up the field a bit there, almost catching Craig out, I think, there. But 5 lap old tyres, of course, we've got about 2 or 3 of those laps were on the safety car. So he's got a little bit of life left in those tyres, but he's going to have to absolutely fly into the safety car restart. So too is Renault Craig, so too is Wojtek. They're all going to have to absolutely try and pull away as much as they can from the McLaren Brennons, because they've got a hell of a lot of medium runner cars right behind them who will catch up to them very quickly if they burn out their soft tyres too quickly. See, TG Jeffrey almost going off there. He's so concentrated to make sure he keeps temperature in his tyres. Safety car just peeling around the second to last corner now, so he's going to have to be a little bit more patient. He's going to have to try and back up the field a little bit more, but seems desperate to get underway. Safety car now does peel in to the pit lane. He's coming around the last corner. He's still weaving his tyres. He still wants to get them into that ultimate window. He's now come flying on the last corner. Craig just getting a little bit tetchy on the throttle there, almost losing it. The soft runner cars all want to absolutely fly now. And as we can now head on to 7, TG Jeffrey does get a good restart. Craig is on his tail though, only 4/10 of a second behind as Jeffrey goes a little bit wide around turn 3, perhaps not got his tyres into that ultimate window that it wants, and Craig is looking very racy.
Yeah, we've also got Luke Bailey down in P9 looking very racy already. He's all over the back of Gareth, aka Captain Stiff. So he's going to be looking to start making his way through the field straight away.
As I see what Craig can do, he's of course under pressure from Wojtek as well. The top 3 are very, very, very close. Only 3/10 of a second. Jeffrey decides to go defensive. He's going to go back onto the racing line. No, Craig just has a little sniff. I don't think he was really too interested. He's got a bit of action.
Yeah, Wojtek almost got caught out by Craig and Jeffrey. And Wojtek just broke a little bit late and nearly ran in the back of Craig down in the hairpin there. So he's very lucky to avoid contact, but now he's got Brennon's for company behind him.
Meanwhile, Luke Bailey's not wasting any time. It looks like he's trying to go around the outside of Williams of Captain Stiff, and he's just pulled a move off. It's a really nice move. Of course, he's got fresher tyres, and I think Gareth knows this isn't really his fight. Luke Bailey, he knows he's effectively in the lead, and he's already looking at the Mercedes of Mike. He's absolutely determined to slice his way through the field. He knows he can't let... We've got a yellow flag there. I think it might be Sir Spud. I think he might have even retired.
Yeah, not sure what happened, but... Not sure what happened, but Sir Spud retired in Sector 3, so I'm not sure if we'll see another safety car. I don't think we are going to see one yet. Hopefully we get away with that and the racing can resume. We've got a virtual safety car.
So to everybody, I think everyone's just about gone past the pit lane. I think we might actually have we got Mr. P in the pit lane. I don't know if he's got damage, but he's going for again. So I mean, he's going to be, well, it's a cheap pit stop on the virtual safety car, but I mean, after just coming in, I can only assume he's got some damage because this is going to drop into absolutely last place after only 8 laps ago. He was starting on pole. They don't change his front wing, so he's going to the hard. So surely that's
going to the hards. Yeah.
Is that a strategy to go to the end? 20 laps on the hard tyres.
Looks like he's going to the end. So I can't quite figure out why he's gone for that, because you don't gain so much of an advantage pitting under the VSC. You gain enough, but not enough to well, make up that gap to the lead. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what his game plan was there, but it'd be interesting to see how that pans out for him.
Certainly putting all his eggs into one basket. So we're back underway. It's green flag, and after the VSC, Luke Bailey, who's in P8, he can be seen as perhaps your net leader. Although of course he has got to try and look after. He's going around the outside of the Mercedes of Mike. He just seemed to lose it there on the exit of turn 9. Is now coming down around turn 10. It's now going to go into the triple of turns 11, 12 and 13. And Mercedes just about breaks perfectly. In fact, really nicely defended from Mike, and he's just tapping the back of him. In fact, the Alfa Romeo driver is now coming around into turn 14. His potential overtaking spot, if you just brake late enough and drive it down the inside of turn 17, not quite close enough yet. Of course, another thing he's got to be so careful of when he's being aggressive, when you're trying to overtake cars, is just not to lose any sort of downforce in terms of trying to go too fast, going off the circuit and potentially picking up a penalty. You see Stephen going ahead there a little bit wide. It's all very close to the front as well. The 3 soft runners can't really seem to pull away. Only 0.3 of a second ahead of Brennon's. As the Alfa Romeo driver looking at the outside of turn 1. That's very brave.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Mike saw him there. He came over and squeezed him right up against the wall. So it was a bit dodgy. I don't think he anticipated that Luke was going to try that. But I think Luke should have just waited really for the easier pass on the straight. But now we've got Steele down the inside of Luke. So Luke is now dropping back. As a result of this, he's spun. Luke has gone round after contact with Steele, which is unfortunate. And Mike has left the session. Don't know what's gone on there.
An absolute disaster for the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers who started this session. Let's not forget P1 and P3. After the safety car, it looked like there was going to be at least Luke Bailey was going to be in the P1 position. He was going very aggressive. I think he knew he had to get the hammer down. Of course, he was saying the way you dictate and get through traffic, because there's so many strategies going on through the field. It is crucial if you want to win this Grand Prix. Can't blame him for being aggressive. Perhaps didn't quite catch it. We've got some more action going on.
Yeah, we got like 3 or 4 cars sort of trying to go into one corner down at the end of the second long straight. I think we had F1 Richard putting a move on maybe one of the Williams cars, might have been Gareth. So yeah, it was a bit crazy there. None of them seem to want to back out, but they've all gone into single file now quite nicely.
Oh, Scuff just goes a little bit deep. I think it's just caught the end of that. They're all fighting for the same bit of tarmac. It's all heading off after the safety car and virtual safety car restart. The two Alfa Romeos are P14 and P15. Who would expected that after lap 10? As we see, into the pit comes TG Jeffrey, and perhaps didn't quite make the progress he would have wanted on the soft tyres since the restart. We'll see where he drops down. Be interesting to see what tyres he goes on to. He might be trying to go onto the one stop as he pits on a set of mediums. Do you think it's possible to go 19 laps on the medium tyres to the end?
I think if you're very gentle, then yes. We saw one of our drivers jump a line and do it on Monday night, and he got to the end on a set of mediums after pitting at lap 10. So yeah, I think it's possible, but you've got to be very kind to your tyres.
Of course, Benon's, of course, the top driver to start on the medium tyres is now coming under pressure from Tragio. They're going to go side by side after this long straight. Craig's just about holding on to Lee from Wojtek. They're going to go side by side, the Toro Rosso and the McLaren driver. It's a really nice move from the Tragio and the Toro Rosso around the outside. He's going to have to do well to try and defend it. He might just get... It doesn't have DRS, and the McLaren's going to come back at him.
DRS back. Yeah. Easy move for Brennan's back on Drago after a fantastic move from Drago around the outside, but Drago's outbroken Reynolds and held the inside and got the move done.
Oh, this is fantastic racing. Also fantastic racing from the Renault and the Haas of our front two, Craig and Wojtek. They might be struggling for grip. Seems to be sliding a lot, but Craig's holding on to the race lead for now at least. As we come onto as we're on lap 10, we see Craig now going deep into turn 17 as we come under the hotel. It's all going off right now. They're trying to get overtaking any possible position.
These two need to pit now. Their tyres look dead to me from here, so they're all over the track. Are they going to pit?
No, Dragio does.
Both of them.
So the guy who seems to have the most grip on their tyres comes into the pit. So fair play to Craig and Wojtek. They're absolutely determined to go as long as they can on these soft tyres. Surely looking at the one stop, I mean, absolutely no complaints from us. They seems to be having a fantastic battle, and Wojtek seems still just perhaps that little bit more tyre life into his soft tyres. He's looking at Craig and coming into the end of sector 1. As Dutch Lowy picks up 3 seconds, I saw Luke Bailey, I think, also picking up another penalty. So I think he might have even pitted again. Luke Bailey, I think he's just coming out the pits.
These guys staying out at the front is all the time playing into the hands of TTG Jeffrey. He is gaining time on them hand over fist at the moment. So he's currently 12 seconds off the lead on much fresher tyres, and he's just.
Let's see Craig absolutely firm defence against Wojtek. It looked like Wojtek had finally got past the Renault, but no, Craig just broke really late, and it was a very strong defence. And now still he's going to have a look, see what he can do. He's probably got the much best tyres of all three of them. He's going to look around the outside now, and it's again Craig late onto the brakes, and he's just he's making that the widest Renault in the world. And we've got a spinner.
No, we haven't got a spinner. We've got a late lunging Toro Rosso and Dutch Lowy. We had F1 Richard behind his teammate Brennan's, and Dutch Lowy came out of nowhere and just sent one up the inside of him down into the chicane at the end of the second straight. I think we've got Nitrogash possibly with some damage as well.
There's 5 seconds for still B for corner cutting there. This comes out very bad. So it's got another virtual safety car.
Nitrogash in sector 3 with wing damage, and he's just gone a bit too hot into one of the corners and stuck it in the wall.
I believe that was the same place where Synchronously might have lost his car. I think as we just see Mike coming through it now. We have a few cars in the pit lane. Craig, Dutch Lowy and Brennan's all choosing to pit, so it was well there for Craig. It seemed like his tyres were just about falling off the edge. So we just missed Still B taking the lead as Mr. P gets a drive through for speeding under virtual safety car. Wow. Very short safety car. This is going an absolute disaster for the Alfa Romeo drivers tonight. Still B has got a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. It might have been while he was trying to overtake Craig for the race lead. He got it done in the last sector, so I mean, very impressive driving to overtake round there. But he now leads on his 7-lap old mediums. He's got Wojtek behind him in P2, who's still on the set of softs that he started on. So It'd be very impressed that he's managed to keep it going. As Stephen and F1 Richard are going side by side, as Williams driver just keeps ahead, but the McLaren now coming back at him, and he's got a much better exit. It seems he's got a much better speed, and he's got a much better drag reduction system. It's still very, very close though. So Williams seems to just have the inside line. He's side by side, and McLaren just about going around the outside. He's got slightly newer tyres as well, new grip. No, Stephen at the end. Sees that goes. Jeffrey now picks up 3 seconds. It's going to be impossible to predict who's going to be leading at the end of all this.
Yeah, everyone seems to be picking up penalties at the moment. That was a very nice move by F1 Richard there. Very ballsy. Stuck it in round the outside and shut the door on O'Stephen in the chicane.
As we now see Malc, who's now in P5 because he started at the back of the grid. He's had an up and down race. He's had damage. I think he was caught up in the synchronously DNF, but he's carefully plucked his way back up through the field as Dracio now retires. I think he might have had a crash in the same safety car. Is it the same corner?
Again. Yeah, same corner again, same wall, a different car. So yeah, we've got a safety car now, which is Craig is pitting again, and he's only on his out lap, so I'm not quite sure what the idea is behind that.
Maybe that's damage. Yeah. I mean, we've only had 13 laps. I think this is our second safety car. I've had 2 virtual safety cars, so I was changing his front wing. So that answers that. I think he must have picked up damage where possibly where Giorgio, he might have had contact with him. But I mean, this safety car, once again, I could expect anyone to come into the pit lane really at this point.
It seems that Luke Bailey has just gone through the pit lane but not changed his tyres, according to my visual on my screen, so I'm not quite sure what that was about either. Obviously Mr. P's got that drive-through penalty that he can't serve under the safety car, so he is going to drop back down. Jeffrey stayed out, but he's got some work to do to overtake Malc and O'Stephen, Richard and Steele to get back into the lead, but I expect O'Stephen to pit at some point.
And speaking of drive-through, it looks like Craig's now picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding other safety cars. Almost stopping down this back straight. I'm not too sure what's going on here. I mean, it is at the back of the field anyway. Of course, everyone will punch up on the safety car. I'm not sure if that might just be a glitch in the system. Of course, only time will tell. There's now our race leader coming around the second to last corner. Does he come into the pits? Yes, he does. And I think he might be followed by quite a few cars here. See F1 Richard also coming to the pit lane. Stephen also coming to the pit lane. I think we've got a Racing Point staying out. TG Jeffrey seems to be the only car staying out so far because he's only done 4 laps on those mini set tyres, so he's perfectly happy. Mr. P also stays out. We'll have to see about the following cars of Dutch Low. Wojtek picks up 3 seconds. A few cars going past the pit lane there. As we now see Captain Stiff also staying out on the soft tyres. Dutch Low picks up a drive-through penalty. Didn't quite catch that. Was that for speeding or was that under the safety car? Or
I think it might have been for speeding under the safety car. I'm not sure what that was. Yeah, unfortunately for O'Stephen, he's had to change onto the hard tyre for the last stint because he started on the medium. So the advantage he gained from the safety car has kind of been taken away by the fact he's had to choose the hards.
So I'll put it on you. We've got 15 laps to go. We're on the safety car. At the moment we've got TT Jeffrey back into the lead. He's on 4 lap old mediums. Potentially going to the end. Of course, his tyres can be very, very dead at the end. Mr. P sat in P2, who we believe could have a driver penalty. At this point it's impossible to keep up with who's got penalties of what. He sat in P2, as we know is very quick. He's got hard tyres, so you probably should just about quite comfortably in fact make it to the ends, despite being a little bit slower. Do you think it's a straight fight between those two, or do we look at someone like maybe F1 Richard, who's in P5? He's got a brand new set of mediums. Wojtek, who's looked pretty quick tonight as well. It's going to be very close.
Richard could bring himself into it. He's had very good pace tonight. I've been impressed with him. So yeah, I think Dutch Lowy obviously there as well. His pace is pretty good, but I'm not sure. I can't see anyone. If Jeffrey gets away at the start, I can't see anyone really touching Jeffrey for the win.
He has been absolutely brilliant in terms of his pace. His first stint was absolutely out of this world. He was just pipped to pole position, but he took the lead in P1, and the Alfa Romeo simply didn't have a question to answer for him. He absolutely pulled away. He was the best car. He was the fastest car on track. safety cars and virtual safety cars has mean it's impossible to keep up with strategies and whatnot. I see damage there. I think it might have been for Malc. I think it might have just hit the back of the Williams of Captain Stiff. I'm not sure what that was about. I see a couple of penalties there. Dutch Lowy's picking up 5 seconds for collision with Mr. P. I can only imagine what that was. I think Craig might have got a penalty as well in all of that somewhere. As we're just about to get back underway as TC Jeffrey comes around the last corner. Crucial that he starts to pull a gap now. He knows his tyres will fade quicker than Mr. P's, but he's already pulled 8 tenths of a second. We're only in turn 1 already. Lap 15, 14 laps to go then. It's impossible to find out where everyone stands in terms of tyres, but he's got a fantastic getaway. 1.1 seconds.
Yeah, very good getaway by Jeffrey. I expect him just to pull a gap now in the cars behind. We've got Mr. P behind on the hard, so I can't see Mr. P challenging him on the slower compounded tyre. Mr. P's just got to hang in there and do the best he can now to the end of the race on those tyres.
Yeah, Dutch Lowy all over the back of him. He's making the most of his medium set of tyres. The hard tyres, of course, are much slower. They are much durable. So Mr. P, if he can sort of stay in second position all the way up towards the closing few laps, he'll be looking very nicely in comparison to Jeffrey and Dutch Lowy and Mike behind him. But right now he's got a lot of work to do, and of course when DRS becomes back activated as well, I've even more work to do. But right now it's Dutch Lowy in P3. I think we might have, I think Mike might be an AI car. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I believe Mike left the session, so I don't think that's actually him there. I think that's a robot.
Okay, so we've got F1 Richard is just about behind him. We'll see if Mike can get back in the session or whatever, because he's so running very well on P4 right now. F1 Richard is on the newest set of tyres and in the top 5, so he'll be doing his absolute best. Wojtek is on the hard set of tyres, he's in P2. Yeah, he'll be looking to go through the field as well, particularly on those last few laps when everyone else's tyres go off the cliff. With just, it's such a hard circuit on tyres in terms of temperatures as well.
I'm not quite sure why Wojtek pitted for the hard tyre when he started on the soft. He could have quite easily got to the end on the mediums from where he was, so yeah, not really the optimal tyre to be on.
Dutch Lowy comes into the pit lane only a lap after the safety car. I think he might be saying, I think he might have got a drive-through penalty. Yeah,
unfortunately, yeah.
I think that might have been a bug of the safety car, which of course we've seen quite a lot of, sadly, these days. But let's see what F1 Richard can do. He's only half a second behind the AI of Mike in the Mercedes. He's had a very, very storming race so far, and that's always good to see. Mike is now just joined back into his car, and he'd be pleasantly surprised, I think, when he gets back into the car and find himself into P3, I think.
Yeah, and behind Mr. P, looking to get into P2, so yeah, he will be pleasantly surprised, I imagine. I'm not sure if Mr. P has served his drive-through. I'm kind of thinking he has, because he hasn't come in for it just yet, but could just be trying to make a gap before he does it, so let's see over the next couple of laps if he pops into the pits.
Sadly for Dutch Lowy, that drive-through penalty has dropped him all the way to the back of the grid. He's 7.5 seconds behind Craig, who's also P12. Luke Bailey's at P11. All these fast drivers right to the back of the grid. It's so crazy. It's such an incredibly crazy race it's been so far, but it's still 13 laps to go and anything can happen. There's so many tyres out there, so many different tyre ages out there. I think Gareth is perhaps going to look to struggle towards the end. He's on 5-lap-old softs. He's surely going to have to pit again before the end, so he could drop quite a few positions. I think everyone else is going to try and perhaps struggle all the way to the end. Luke Bailey's in 11th. He's on old mediums, so it's going to be a mammoth task really for him to get any sort of meaningful points for him. Of course, he's aiming for the championship, as F1 Richard is sort of within a Mercedes sandwich as Mike comes into the pit lane.
Yeah, we've got Mr. P in as well. I believe he should be serving his drive-through now, so yeah, that's Mr. P going to drop all the way back down to the rear end of the field. So
further problems for the Alfa Romeo boys, as F1 Richard is now up into P2. It'll be interesting to see. He has got 4-lap newer tyres than TG Jeffrey, so he has got a chance of reeling in that gap. It's 3.6 seconds. Jeffrey's looking absolutely incredible pace at the moment. To gain 3.6 seconds in just a few laps after the safety car just shows where his pace has been tonight. He's superb in the first stint as well. But what might help him as well is that the fact that F1 Richard has perhaps got to look behind rather than forward, because the Mercedes of steel is absolutely right on his gearbox and potentially looking at a move here as we come into the heavy braking zone. It goes down the inside, it goes down to first gear, flicks it into the left hand corner, into the right, and he's already got the move done. It's a really nice effort. And then McLaren's under pressure from Wojtek on the hard tyres and the Haas. He's got DRS to defend himself with. He's come down into turns 11, 12 and 13. I think he might just have the speed. We'll have a look. The Haas thinks better of a move as Craig picks up 3 seconds for multiple warnings. You see the Williams of Captain Stiff getting so close to the back, and also the McLaren of Brennans is having a very nice battle with Stephen. See, Malc is just sort of in a race of his own. He's currently into P6. He started from the back, of course, so I'm sure he'll be very happy. He's got tyres that should comfortably go to the end of the race for him. The Captain Stiff ahead of him, who's probably most likely going to have to pit again. TG Jeffrey's doing a very nice job. He's 3.7 seconds clear, but still has got a nice gap now to F1 Richard. He's just going to have to try and break that DRS zone as fast as he can. He's set a new fastest lap of 39.7.
Yeah, this race has worked out very well for Malc so far. That early safety car really benefited him, and the safety cars that came after that. Yeah, obviously started at the back. He's up in 6th, but I imagine he'll be very pleased with that so far.
And just seeing some news here with Mike with his disconnection. He's just having problems rejoining, so that's why we did have an AI car for him. Obviously, he's now dropped back down into P12. It's been a hard race of penalties. I think, to be fair to a lot of these guys, I think we're seeing a lot of penalties under safety cars, which of course I don't think really these guys can really do too much about. So sadly, one of those things is I think got a problem there from Mike at the back. I think he might have just had a spin, possibly around turn 2. I think he is on 11 lap old mediums, and when those tyres do get old, when those temperatures do go up, it actually becomes a very challenging corner in these conditions. As still seems to very quickly beginning to close in on TG Jeffrey here. So he's pulled the gap down from about 3.8 to about 3 seconds. Have we got a fight going on?
Dutch Lowy and Mr. P trading positions down at the chicane. Dutch Lowy, has he got a run on him again? Yeah, he's got a run on him down the second straight. Will he be brave on the brakes and overtake Mr. P around the outside? No, Mr. P holds it on the inside very well. So yeah, it's a good little battle going on here at the moment over P9.
A very, very harsh reality check for perhaps Mr. P and Luke Bailey. They look absolutely invincible in Japan as a team. They looked invincible again tonight. They started P1 and P3 like they started in Japan. Tonight though they are running P9 and P12, and they've got a lot of work to do in these final 10 laps. But just going back to the point of Steel B, who is gaining on TG Jeffrey, but F1 Richard is being pulled along very nicely with him. He's kept himself in the DRS zone, and these two do have much better tyres than TG Jeffrey. Is this an opportunity, Charlie? If you're perhaps F1 Richard, do you sit behind Steel, sit in the DRS zone and think, right, we may not be teammates, but if we work together, we'll use our best speed? Because they're very quickly catching up to the Racing Point.
Yeah, 9-10 laps. There's a long way to go in this race. If F1 Richard and Steele are clever and sort of use each other, so to speak, to gain on Jeffrey with the fresher tyres, they could look at both passing him towards the end. So yeah, like you say, they are gaining on him. If F1 Richard could just try get back in that DRS of Steele and tag along to the leader, they could both find themselves in a very handy position at the end of the race.
Actually, only 2.2 seconds is the gap to the lead. As you see, Gareth here now, he's on his 8-lap-old soft tyres, doing a really good job to keep him in check, and he's really, even so, he's just almost going in the back of the Haas driver there, just about wheels out of the way. He's got a 3-second penalty for corner cutting. I think that was quite a harsh penalty. He seemed to have lost time more than anything. Of course, as we know, corner cutting penalties are so harsh around here, but despite his old softs, and I'm sure the tyre temperature must be going through the roof at this stage of their cycle, he's doing really well. He's still looking on the offensive, and he's got his teammate behind him as well, who's fighting with Malc for P6.
Yeah, I can't imagine the brakes are thanking Gareth for that one.
No, see, Brennans is in P8. He's also pitting Malc under pressure, who's eyeing the Red Bull's P7. As Malc just going a little bit wide there. In fact, that is another warning. There is another penalty for the Red Bull driver. Of course, penalties are going to be quite possibly a deciding factor for a lot of positions tonight. As we see, now got 9 laps to go, and still B is 1.5 seconds behind the Racing Point. It's surely going to have a battle for the lead very, very soon. F1 Richards has dropped back to 2.2. Perhaps he's had a scruffy lap as Brennan's coming out of nowhere. Seems like Mac's really struggling with his tyres through turn 3, and the McLaren moves round the outside. It's a very nice move. Moves up into P7, and he'll be looking at the 2 Williams drivers ahead of him, as potentially he can still get before the end of this race.
Yeah, let's not forget that TTG Jeffrey has got a 3-second time penalty, and I'm just looking through. So is Steele. So if Richard can keep penalty free towards the end of the race, he could be looking at a win here.
Well, that would be a hell of a result as Malc comes back at the McLaren. A really nice move down the end, down the inside. The McLaren has to back out of it. He will get DRS though, as we come around turn 10 now, and he'll be looking, perhaps trying to send it back down the inside of turns 11, 12 and 13. What can Malc do? He doesn't go defensive. The McLaren driver doesn't think anything of it. It doesn't really look to the inside line. He's quite happy to just sit behind the Red Bull for now. He's going to bide his time and come back at him. As Mr. P and Dutch Lowy seem to be going at it again.
Yeah, again over P9. Mr. P is really trying to hang in there and keep Dutch Lowy behind. He's doing a good job of it so far. It's been very entertaining to watch this battle back here. Obviously not where Mr. P would have thought he would have been at this point in the race. He was hoping to be challenging Jeffrey for the win, but this is where he is, and he's doing a very good job of protecting that position.
On to lap 21, and still is just the back of our race leader in the racing point. 9/10 of a second is the gap for the lead very, very soon. His tyres are 4 laps younger. And we've still 8 laps to go in this race. Every lap he's going to be looking more and more races. Luke Bailey sets the fast lap of the race, 39.3. He's on a new set of softs. There's no surprise about that. As Gareth pits, I think he's running about 4th or 5th place, so he pits for a new set of softs. Realistically, I don't think those softs are ever going to go to the end. See where it comes out. It comes out about P12. So he still kept himself in contention, perhaps for a point, if he can absolutely make the most of those tyres. Does of course promote a lot of drivers, promotes Mr. P and Dutch Lowy to P8 and P9. The racing point looking a little bit wild through that chicane there, and so he might get a really nice run still. I think it'd be a little bit too far back, but he knows right now the racing point is looking like a sitting duck.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time, I think, before this move happens for the lead. That's still getting a little bit out of shape there through the chicane, maybe pushing a bit too hard, but yeah, Jeffrey's firmly in his sights now, and he's just needs to save up some energy and get that move done down the straight. It's looking like a bit of a sitting duck before the racing point.
Another potential move is this perhaps the turning point where the hard tyres become better than the mediums, as Vortec is all over the back of F1 Richard, who was very, very close to still. He dropped off to about 2 seconds quite rapidly. He was keeping up really nicely. And it would have been, of course, I think he might have just stayed penalty, as we were saying, as Jeffrey actually comes into the pit lane. Now that's very surprising. It's for a new set of tyres.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
I don't think any of us were. He comes in for a new set of softs, so he's clearly felt that either he was worried potentially about a puncher, but he felt there's no possible way he could have gone to the end. I think there's no possible way he would have kept on to the lead, as still now inherits the lead, and he's looking very nice for a win. F1 Richard, I think, does have less penalties, if any penalties, compared to Still.
Is Jeffrey going to come out ahead of this gaggle of cars? I think he is. I think he's just got out ahead of Mr. P, Dutch Lowy and Luke Bailey there. Yeah,
so it's come up P7, 5 seconds behind. He's still, Mr. P almost losing it. He's going to put himself under a lot of pressure now from Dutch Lowy. He's now going wheel to wheel with Luke Bailey. Luke Bailey sends it down the inside of the hairpin. He's done a really nice move there. He's on a new set of soft tyres. He's going to absolutely want to fly. He's going to want to get past his teammate as quick as he can. He can see GG Jeffrey, who's got a brand new set of softs, so he's going to want to try and stay with him. Mr. P, I think, playing the team game there, quite sensibly so. Doesn't fight his teammate whatsoever. But Luke Bailey knows there's more points up for grabs if he can use the maximum pace he does. That it does have. Vortec picks up 3 seconds, which is absolutely crucial in the fight for the podium positions. He's still just 0.4 of a second behind F1 Richard. That looks to be a fight that's going to go all the way to the flag. As to as a fight, there seems to be the fight between Mr. P and Dutch Lowy. They're still going still going wheel to wheel. Only 0.6 of a second behind. Dutch Lowy perhaps just dropping off a little bit into the clutches of Craig, who's just got a little bit better tyres. And Gareth as well as in P12. He'll be feeling like he's got a lot more positions yet to gain.
Yeah, Gareth all over the back of Craig, and he's got Dutch Lowy just in front of him, so looking very racy on those fresh soft tyres. He needs to make it count and get past these cars within the 5 laps we've got until the end.
Absolutely, did a really nice stint there. After the I think it was the second safety car, did a really nice stint going really long on those soft tyres, looked after his tyres well, and now this is the part of the race where he's going to get the absolute maximum benefit, and there it is, out the last corner. It's going to come into turn 1 side by side with the Renault of Craig. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out into the lead ahead of this battle, and there he is, down the inside. Craig's going to try and keep it around the outside. Realistically, he just doesn't have the tyre life left in his medium tyres, and Gareth now moves on to P11, just 1 place out of the points. Of course, there's a lot of penalties. I think Luke Bailey, Mr. P, Dutch Lowy, they all have a lot of penalties as well. I think Gareth has kept it relatively clean. So he might gain quite a few positions here, even without.
Yeah, we've got Wojtek with a good run now at Richard on the second straight. Is he going to get the move done this time?
He's going to have a look at it. Thinks better of it.
Just
Biding his
just
time.
conserving a bit of energy. Yeah, picking the right moment to get the move done.
I think Wojtek does. I think potentially has quite a few penalties. I know he picked up one just a couple of laps ago. So I think F1 Richard is still, in terms of penalties, looking the best out of these top three. It'd be interesting to see, of course, come they all finish, cross that finish line. But he's still crucially staying within the range of 3 seconds of still in the Mercedes, and a little bit of spacing out now. It's really the fight for second that is the main focus, and I think Wojtek, if he can perhaps clear F1 Richard, if Steele's tyres do go off at the end, I think we could be seeing at least a move on track at least. Wojtek potentially going into the lead if he can just keep his tyres in check and get past that McLaren.
Yeah, he just needs to get a move on and get past F1 Richard, who seems to be holding him up at the moment. Not too much though. I think they're still fairly competitive in terms of lap times with each other, but yeah, if Wojtek can just clear Richard, he could find himself on the back of Steele, not too far away.
This Gareth has now just homed in on the seeming race-long battle between Dutch Lowy and Mr. P for 9th and 10th. He's going to want to clear them as quick as he can. He knows as Luke Bailey looks to have just about got past Malc.
Oh,
might have done it.
We've got Dutch Lowy in the wall. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I just switched on board with Dutch Lowy and
a virtual safety
he was
car.
flying at a very high speed into the wall. So yeah,
I'm
not quite sure how that happened. Must have been involved with Mr. P.
Certainly not. Free position for Gareth though. It does of course bring that almost race-long battle with Mr. P to an end on lap 24. Gareth does now move up into the point scoring positions. He's got Craig behind him, who's probably just about struggling to keep up. He's got much worse tyres. Realistically, I think Craig's probably looking at gaining positions in terms of penalties. Gareth knows he's got probably the best tyres on the field, along with TG Jeffrey. Jeffrey, in fact, we haven't spoke about for a few laps after coming in for a new set of softs. We certainly didn't expect it. He's only 1.6 seconds behind Brennan's, who Brennan's himself is only a further second behind Earth Stevens. So TG Jeffrey could still be looking for possibly still another 4th place here, which wouldn't be a bad result considering what I think came out of pit about 8th or 9th, I think.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of work to do here at the end to try and get back into P4, Jeffrey, but I think it's doable with his pace and his ability. Should be quite easy to do at the end of the race here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just see Wojtek, who we was talking about, potentially on track. If we get past the McLaren of F1 Richard, maybe looking for the race win. It's now dropped 1.9 seconds behind the McLaren driver, so I'm not sure. It is quite easy to lose a second or two if you're not completely on it with the Delta under VSC, so it might have been that, or it could have been a mistake. We'll have to see. As Mr. P comes into the pit, which feels like he's about the 7th time he's gone through that pit lane today. The mechanics will certainly know him well. As he goes on to a new set of soft, I assume maybe looking for fastest lap.
And it was a wing change as well, so I'm assuming that he was caught up in contact with Dutch Lowy, which is what sent him into the wall. So yeah, probably going to go for fastest lap now, and that's all he'll be able to salvage from this race.
Once again, looking at McLaren of Stevens, is the closest battle, but he's got to be careful from behind. The Racing Point is on a brand new set of soft tyres, but so much for big parts of this race has looked like the fastest car on the field. But it is going to be very hard to overset the McLaren as long as the McLaren has DRS. He might have to be perhaps a little bit inventive here, where he's potentially lining up an overtake, just throwing it into that left-hand corner. It's now coming round into the last sector. These are killers for the tyres. But McLaren's just driving away a little bit wide there from Brennan's and Stephen, in fact, as we now come around into turn 18 and 19 under the hotel. It's a brilliant part of the track in terms of the visual aspects of the car, of the track, sorry, as Mr. P picks up his 1 billionth warning and his another 3-second time penalty. God knows how many seconds that is. I think we might even be looking at a few disqualifications here tonight, Charlie. I don't know. I think I lost count about 10 laps ago, if I'm being honest. Because it is so brutal around this circuit.
Yeah, you've just really got to be careful. And obviously, he's not been able to do that tonight, but I expect to see him back at the front in the next race. So, don't drop your head, Mr. P. Just try and get back on it next race.
And see Malc and Craig picking up 3 seconds in quick succession there as well. And TJ Jeffrey, I think, just tapping the back of the McLaren around that first sector, but he is so close to the McLaren. Has he got? If he's not alongside, does he have to throw it down the inside anyway?
I think so. It's getting to that kind of point in the race where you just got to get the move done. But he's going down the inside now. Is he going to be brave on the brakes? Reynolds is equally as brave on the brakes. Is he going to go for the switchback? No, he's going to brave it round the outside, and he's got that move done nice and cleanly.
Very nice move. And I've just seen the Racing Point coming down that straight. I believe it might even have a little bit of wing damage here. I don't believe that's a spectator's glitch. I'm not aware of such a thing if it is. But even so, the absolute sheer factor of having much better tyres and much better grip means he was able to pull off a very nice move around the outside there. And crucially, perhaps, F1 Richard is now 3 seconds behind Still B. So if he has got a penalty less than Mercedes driver, he won't gain the full benefit of it, as TJ Jeffrey now only half a second behind O'Stephen. There's an absolute night and day difference between their tyres. And this should be a much easier overtake for the Racing Point drivers. The Williams has no car ahead of him to have DRS off.
Yeah, that Williams is really struggling now on the exits of every corner. There should be a straightforward move for Jeffrey to get done, and hopefully just pull a gap on the Williams, because I know Jeffrey does have penalties. So he needs to just get his move done and try and pull a gap in the last lap of the race.
Obviously seeing McLaren, they're going really wide for turn 1. Brennan's as well, we're really struggling. I think there's a lot of these hard tyre runners are really struggling. They've done really well to get them this long. It's such a hard circuit on tyres, so there's so many times. It's not just temperatures, but when the temperatures go and your tyres are worn, it's so easy. I think like this might be a very easy move for the Racing Point drivers. Mr. P does in fact set the fastest lap of the race. It might be a bittersweet consolation for him. He goes to the inside line. I don't think the Williams driver is going to fight it too hard. Does really nicely on the brakes, so he's going to keep it at least for another Jeffrey does exactly the same to what he did to the McLaren and goes around the outside, but he's going to have to now depend perhaps to the Williams driver. I'm not sure how hard he's going to fight it. O'Stephen is going to look to the outside line with DRS. Through 11, 12 and 13, the Racing Point really critical to Williams now going side by side. He's just made a little bit of contact. He does well to hold it, but now the McLaren's going to get involved.
Yeah, they were a bit too kind to each other, and ended up leaving a bit too much space, and then they both went for it at the same time and made contact there. So yeah, also just a point, I'm not quite sure what happened to Malc, but he seems to be driving around with a bit of a new style front wing that has no end plates on either side. So he was running up in, I think, P5 or P6 after a couple of safety cars, and it was looking quite good for him, but he's dropped back down.
He was certainly in the points here. That's got 15-second gap to Mr. P, so he's still looking good for a points scoring position at least. He's only 2 seconds behind Renault Craig as well. Vortex slowly but surely going to grill back in F1 Richard as well. I think it might be too little too late. We are on the last lap of the race. Be interesting to see what happens in terms of penalties. It's impossible to keep up. It's impossible to know what will happen, how the positions will change when they all cross that start-finish line. But F1 Richard, perhaps crucially, who knows, has got the gap down to 2.3 seconds. Wojtek is only 1.1 behind F1 Richard. He's just going to be outside the DRS zone for this last lap. We're right on board with the leaders in just a second. We'll see how Brennan's can do. It's the only fight really going on for this last lap. It's in the slipstream, it's in the tow. Is in the DRS zone of the Williams of O'Stephen. They're both on hard tyres. They've both absolutely got absolute zero grip. Williams goes just a little bit wide. Might compromise his exit. As we come now out of turn 9. And he's very, very close to the McLaren driver.
Yeah, he's got a good run on the Williams down into the triple chicane, if you want to call it. Is he going to brave it round the outside on the last lap? No, O'Stephen's defended that perfectly there. And retains his position in front of Brennan's for now.
Yeah, and last lap pressures, he had to get his braking point absolutely perfect. Still, the Mercedes driver has responded to perhaps any speculation that it was going to be an Alfa Romeo walkover this season. He's done a really good job. We'll see what penalties happens, but he crosses the line P1. Fantastic job from the Mercedes driver. Congratulations to him. F1 Richard does take the race win on penalties, and crucially, it was that 3-second gap that he had to keep. And he takes the win by half a second. TT Jeffrey finishes in P4. O'Stephen seems to has he just had a problem, or has he run out of fuel crossing the line?
He's just sure. I think he might have run out of fuel.
I think he might have run out of fuel. As Gareth, Captain Stiff, I think might have just got Luke Bailey on penalties as well. Gareth is now going to round up P9. I think he's got a host of penalties as well. He's got a 5-second penalty that was unserved to be added on as Malc then crosses the line. He doesn't gain past Craig. I'll be surprised if Mr. P gains any positions on penalties. He doesn't, and Mike will round out the field in P12. Bit of a breather. Our podium is F1, Richard, Steele and Wojtek. Was you expecting that podium at the start of the race, Charlie?
Certainly was not. No, I was expecting the two Alphas and the and Jeffrey to be there just based on pace, but it's not all about pace. Sometimes you've got to be a bit slower to be ahead. So yeah, obviously Richard, Steele and Wojtek kept their heads during all the chaos of the race and came out on top.
Absolutely, congratulations to F1 Richard. Had a really good race in Suzuka. I think he was fighting for P5, P6. Didn't quite have the same pace as the top 4 or 5 cars, but had a really nice battle with Mike and he's picked up some very valuable points. I don't think he would have been expecting to be spraying the champagne in round 2 though. It's a fantastic result for him, and of course, as you were saying, sometimes it's got to be about protecting your own race in terms of it is perhaps quicker to go and get save 3 seconds, but just keeping it a little bit slower, a little bit more within the limit, and making sure you cross that line with no penalties. There was only 1 penalty that Steele got, which is actually quite an achievement around this circuit. We see a lot more penalties than that usually, but sadly for him that was enough to drop him down to P2. Wojtek crosses the line. He had a couple of penalties. He drops into P3. One-stop strategy mode was well done from him. TG Jeffrey has some fantastic pace, but sadly I think it's just safety cars didn't really help him. He had a penalty as well. Bernard's had a very good race, a 1-stop. So did Stephen. He's in P6. Gareth, Luke Bailey, Craig and Malc are your top 10. Mr. P and Mike were the last of the finishers. And in the race we lost Dutch Lowy, Dragio, Nitro Gas, Tennis, Spud and Synchronously very early on. Charlie, what was your highlights from tonight's race around Abu Dhabi?
It's not really a highlight you could say, but the sort of capitulation of the Alfa Romeo's race was interesting to watch. Didn't really expect that to happen, but after last week's strong showing, you would have expected them to be up at the top again, but unfortunately they seem to have lost their heads tonight and fallen way down the order. So that was my sort of highlight, as sad as that may seem.
It does blow the championship wide open, and of course round 3 is now anyone's guess really, as the favourites for this round seem to absolutely, as you say, capitulate, as we do have our top 3 now with us. As we just say congratulations to all 3 of you. Please make sure you have your voice able to be shared, and I believe Charlie, you're doing the post-race interviews tonight.
Yeah, so start with Richard, our race winner. How did you manage to navigate your way through all of that and win from there?
I've got no idea. I shall have to watch that one back, because that was mayhem. It really was. Was it good to watch?
Yeah, it was very entertaining for us. There was a lot going on. It was quite hard to keep up with. But how did you feel? What was your sort of idea from the start with the strategy? What were you going to do before the carnage happened?
I just sort of watched you guys Monday night and took my lead from there.
Yeah.
And the safety cars weren't ideal timing, but they weren't bad, you know. The last one especially, it was a toss-up whether to go onto the hards or stretch the mediums out, and I just plumped for the medium.
Yeah, you did very well to sort of navigate your way through the safety car and keeping your strategy sort of in check at the same time. Did you have many wheel-to-wheel battles on track?
With that man in second place, I had a couple of ding-dongs, I think, again. Steele, great race, mate. Mike's car ghosting, I mean, that doesn't help a lot. That puts you off quite a bit, doesn't it? That was when you get a ghosting car. Yeah, apart from that, yeah.
You're happy with the race then, yeah?
Obviously, yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I can't believe it. Fantastic.
Yeah, well done. Steele, on to you. Talk us through your race. How did that go? You know, you had a good qualifying position, and did you think you could move forward from there, or were you not expecting to be up on the podium?
I didn't expect this at all, because We before the race, I practiced a little bit with Mike, and I didn't know what to expect. So this is for me really good result. Actually, this happened to me before, same thing, before 2 or 3 seasons. Just Mike won in front of me, and I lost it because of penalties. So yes, like a deja vu. But good race for me. I'm satisfied.
Good. On to Wojtek. Again, you didn't qualify too badly. How was the race for you coming through the field?
Well, it was a complete mess, especially in the first part. There was a lot of safety cars and virtual safety cars, and I think I tried to skip the first safety car because it was too early, I believe. And it showed up good. I did the one pit stop strategy, so it turns out well, but I was sweating in the last laps, to be honest, because I picked up some points, some penalties, and those guys behind me goes really fast, so I was hoping for the podium.
I was interested to see that you did stay out after that first safety car on the soft tyre. What was your thinking there with your tyres being around 10 laps old, I believe?
Yeah, but they were quite good, in terms of grip, so I tried to stick with them as long as I could, because as I said, the first safety car, I think I was too early to pit stop, so I tried it, and that was a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, and also you moved to the hard tyre for the race. Did you think you wouldn't be able to get to the end on the medium? Do you think that was too much of a stretch?
After a safety car, I tried to stick with the one pit stop strategy, and I was thinking only about hards.
Okay.
Because I don't think that the mediums will stay as long as the hard ones.
Okay, cool. So I've got one more question for all three drivers. We've got Spa next. I'll start with Richard. Do you like Spa, and how are you feeling about it next week?
I do like Spa. Probably jinxed myself there. Yeah, I do. I love the flow of it. Yeah, Eau Rouge, everything. Yeah. Just hope it stays dry.
yeah, it can have a lot of weird weather.
Yeah, but yeah, I will be looking forward to that one, especially after tonight.
Yeah. Still, how are you feeling about next week at Spa?
I don't know. I have problems with La Rouge, so I'm not sure what is gonna happen.
Yeah, you're not a fan of Eau Rouge. And who are we on to next? Wojtek, how are you feeling about Spa?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but as Richard said, I hope it stayed dry. And the only thing I'm worried about is quali, because of the length of the track. So there is so long time you need to stay focused. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, good. Well done to all three of you. You drove great races tonight and navigated your way through all the chaos. So congratulations.
Cheers, Charlie.
Guys.
Thank you, Harry. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, good job.
Congratulations to all three of you. Of course, you're free to leave whenever you like. Well, Charlie, was it any surprise the fact that the top three were perhaps the three drivers who managed to keep it clean the most? F1 Richard no penalties, still one penalty. Wojtek, I think only a couple. That was key.
Yeah, not only key in terms of penalties, but in terms of on track and keeping it out of the wall, as we saw many cars do in Sector 3. It was really proving difficult for some guys. So they did very well. And hopefully they can keep it up next week.
Absolutely. For an awful track, that certainly wasn't an awful race to watch. That was some fantastic racing in there. Well done to all of them. And we'll be back hopefully for an equally exciting race in round 3. Next week, of course, later this week, we have the XBOX League starting on Twitch. I think it might be even round 1, so that'd be incredibly exciting to watch. That is streamed on Twitch Sunday 9:30 PM. You can find that at twitch.tv/Invictus Racing League. Monday night is brought to you by Gareth and Sab. That is 8 PM, and the Realistic Performance League will be next Tuesday for round 3, round Spa. It's brought to you again at 8 PM by Malc and Tim. We, of course, along with the F2 League, be here again for round 3 in Spa-Francorchamps next Wednesday, 8 p.m. So hopefully see all you all there. Good night.